Hello, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on SI and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. It's great to be with you today. Thanks for joining me. I want to give you a quick heads up. Of course, we're going to have great podcasts on Saturday and Sunday, like we always do. And of course, we're going to have a good one coming up for you, of course, tomorrow. But get ready. Okay. Like I said, we're going to have good ones for you today. We're going to have good ones for you on, matter of fact, what is today? Yeah, today is Friday. We're going to have great ones for you today. Saturday and Sunday are going to be great, but Monday is a very special podcast. We are going to have a great current Raider on the show joining us, just like we had Robert Spillane. Big time player, big time starter, going to be with us on Monday. You're not going to want to miss it. We're going to talk about the staff. We're going to talk a lot about Pete Carroll, Tom Brady, a lot about Tom Brady, actually, and a lot more. So you're going to get some great insight, going to get a lot of great information about your Raiders. You're not going to want to miss it. That's going to drop at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Monday. It'll be the podcast others are talking about, so make sure you're paying attention. Now, today, I want to dig in with you. We're going to start talking quarterbacks in the 2025 NFL draft. I'm not going to talk about all of them today. I'm going to specifically dig in on a few of them. And we're going to talk about what am I hearing from scouts and executives on their opinions. These aren't my opinions. My opinion doesn't matter, but they are people who are successful drafters and developers of quarterbacks. And I want to know what they're thinking about the class. Now, you have to understand a couple of things. If it is somebody whose team is in need of a quarterback, I am chances are not, I'm not now, there's no chances are, I'm not going to use their information because I'm not even going to ask them. But for my friends, these are proven people whose teams don't need a quarterback. Doesn't mean they wouldn't take one if one fell or whatever, but these are just honest observations. Now, I'm also going to give you two names of two guys. So we're going to talk about five guys today that you need to be aware of. Now, the first one we're going to talk about is the number one quarterback in the class, and that's Cam Ward from Miami. You're going to hear some constructions going on. I'm sorry about that. Nothing I can do about it. But it's Cam Ward. And this one to me is extremely fascinating when I study Cam. Now, here are the things that Cam Ward, by the way, I am told Cam Ward, they kind of have a comparison with him to very similar to a CJ Stroud. So that's a very high ranking. It's why he's the number one quarterback in this class. And I can tell you that of every single person I've spoken to, all of them say Cam is number one. There's no differentiation there. Everybody has Cam at one. So here's a couple things that they really like about him, that he throws the ball effortlessly. Literally just throws the ball effortlessly. One scout said to me, uh, it literally seems like whether he's under pressure or not, getting rid of the football is second nature to him. That's a big deal for a quarterback. They love that the way that he moves with the football in his hands. He's a playmaker, but they really like the way that he improvises, that he thinks really quick. Now, I want to make this clear. Nobody thinks that he's Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or those two specifically. Okay. Nobody thinks he's at that level, but they both think he shows flashes of their improvisational skill set. So he's a very easy thrower who can really improvise with the football. Now, the other thing that they really like about him is that he's very smart. He has a very high IQ for the game of football. One guy said he totally gets his playbook backwards and forwards. Another person told me that the coaches at Miami told them they've never coached a quarterback that knew every single page of the playbook. A guy who has had some interaction with Cam, um, not going to say how, but has had significant interaction with Cam, told one executive I spoke to that he's not seen a quarterback who understood um, the playbook like him since Peyton Manning. Now, he's not worked with every quarterback because Andrew Luck really knew playbooks well, but he just said he reminds him a lot of Peyton Manning in his understanding of the playbook. Um, uh, Another thing that people like is he reminds them of Patrick Mahomes. Again, nobody has him on Patrick's level, but that they really like that he can throw straight over the top, sidearm, underarm like a Brett Favre. But they just said he reminds them of Patrick Mahomes. One guy said to me, "quote plays a lot like a shortstop." So imagine you're getting rushed over the top, but you have to throw around, which Raider fans have seen Patrick Mahomes do a lot. Those are all really good evaluations. Again, when I asked guys, the majority said CJ Stroud, just kind of how they would equate his game. Now, here are some negatives of him because everybody's got negatives. Here are some negatives. One of them was uh, he has too many turnovers or plays where if he was against better competition, there would have been turnovers. One guy said to me, "We saw 9 balls this year that would have been intercepted at the NFL level." Okay. I didn't watch all of his film. I'm just telling you what he told me. So this is what one scout said. Our biggest concern with him is turning over the football. You can get away with that in college. It's easy to get away with it in high school, but not at this level. Turnovers kill teams. That's his biggest negative. Okay. Another scout said to me, um, um, tries to do too much. I am sure that he's always been the most talented person on the field, and even now, many times he is. However, the skill level in the NFL goes even higher. And there, he's going to have to quit trying to make the plays. And when he's out of the pocket, take what's given to him. That goes back to the turnovers, that they think sometimes he just believes in his own mobility too much. And he's going to have to learn take what the defense gives you. Thought that was a very interesting observation. Another one um, said that he after the pre-snap read and pre-snap thoughts, he struggles a little bit on when defenses change. So let me explain this to you. The defense will show something, and he comes up and he does very good at the pre-snap read. Very good at the pre-snap read. But when all of a sudden, which Steve Spagnuolo does a lot, you switch and Patrick Graham does this, and what you show is not what you do, he struggles there, which a lot of quarterbacks do. So we're not blaming him. And remember, when you get to the level of where Cam Ward is, you get nitpicked. So, but that's a very legitimate concern about him. One scout said he has proven that he's teachable. There's not one skill that he has that's a negative that I don't think can be coached out of him. That's why we have him at number 1. So very good stuff there. Okay. And so we're going to talk about 5 quarterbacks. The next one we're going to talk about is the guy that pretty much everybody has as the second guy, Jackson Dart. Now, a lot of people, not a lot, a few people have Shedeur Sanders, but most of the people have Jackson Dart as number 2. Okay. Now, they have Cam Ward with a top half of the first round grade as the best quarterback. Pretty good there. Again, comparisons to CJ Stroud, but not where CJ was when he came out. But they think that's where his game could go to. Jackson Dart's a guy with a second half of the first round grade by most of the people. Now, they all think Cam's going to go a lot sooner than somewhere in that first half. They think he's going to go at the very top. One or not, we don't know, but he's going to go at the top. And they think Jackson Dart will probably go in the top 10. But the people I talk to, again, who are great drafters, have him in the lower half of the first round. Now, I do want to give credit where credit is due, and that's with Drew Stanton last year on the podcast, talked about Jackson Dart being a real dark horse. And we've talked about Jackson quite a bit on this podcast. So let's talk about Jackson Dart. He's the quarterback out of Mississippi. You may remember I think he was at USC also. Here's some of his strength. He was at USC and obviously Ole Miss, where he's played in 45 games and started 41. So he's got a ton of experience going back to the Bill Parcells rules. That's a very, very big deal. One scout said, you just can't get in his head. The more pressure he's under, the better he plays. Another scout said he has that unique ability that the great ones have. The tougher the circumstances, he comes out a diamond. I thought that was really interesting. He has incredible touch with a very impressive rhythm. He just throws the ball consistently, and he has very, very good touch. He can put the ball in the right places. Okay. One scout, I'll get to that in the negatives. Here's another one. He is comfortable and dangerous on designed runs and also ad libbing when it's time to run. He runs with no fear and understands effectiveness over flash, meaning he understands, hey, I'm not going to try to be flashy. I'm just going to try to get it done what I need to get done. One scout said to me the thing that they liked about Jackson Dart is you can trust him, that he understands I've got the win is what matters. I'm not trying to get on Sports Center highlights. He'll do exactly what he can do and then stop it. He's not trying to be the hero. Another one, excellent technique and growth under Lane Kiffin. In fact, this is just a side note. I had one scout tell me, he goes, the way Lane Kiffin developed him is phenomenal. And he goes, I would tell any young kid, go to Ole Miss if you want to be developed as a quarterback. And Lane is very difficult coach to play for. Not because he's a jerk, he's just very hard on his quarterbacks. And he said, you just saw Jackson get better every year. Uh, um, Another scout said his accuracy is off the charts. If you look at most of his interceptions, they come on spot throws. Now, let me explain what that means. There are certain plays that are called spot plays, okay? So the quarterback backs up, three-step drop, bam, throws the ball to a specific spot on the field. The wide receiver is supposed to be there. Okay. This this scout said if you look at most of his interceptions, it's on spot plays where he's not going to have the receivers at Ole Miss that he's going to have in the National Football League. Although that stat goes against him, it should go against the receiver. He's as accurate as blank. You can figure out the blank. Another thing that teams love about him is he's linebacker tough. He's extremely tough. He's a big kid and he plays with a tough mentality. I did not know this. One scout said to me, was shocked to learn when he lifts in the weight room, he lifts with the offensive lineman. He's constantly with his lineman. One of this team's scouts who's at Ole Miss a lot said it's impossible to find him without a lineman hanging around. He's just that kind of kid. He's tough, team oriented. This is something though that I caught my attention. Obviously, the person knows I cover the Raiders. Ken Stabler was known as a guy who took risks, but Ken Stabler, what most people didn't know because of where the game was back then, was very smart. He is Ken Stabler-ish, not the same, but when you watch him, you see Snake. I thought that was very fascinating. Okay, but now let's go over his weaknesses. Okay. Um, he is absolutely can throw the ball in a dime and give you 9 cents change, but he is inaccurate with his deep ball, uh, unlocking his deep ball. Okay, he's got to work on his deep ball. Now, I was told they didn't know how much of that was the skill of his receivers or how much he has to work on that because the Lane Kiffin system is boom, 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 out, boom, 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 out. It's not really a 5-step drop and throw deep. Because of his arm and all of it, they told me they think that is more related to scheme, which was at USC and at Ole Miss, but it is a weakness and something he's going to have to work on. Um, Sometimes he struggles through progressions, and they think that's because of the one style read of offense that Lane Kiffin plays. So let me give you an example. Lane Kiffin, you know, they look over Lane. It's called check with me. Lane, they look over at Lane. Lane makes the read. Boom, that's where the ball goes. And when teams just definitively take it away, he struggles a little bit. And not one scout thought it was he couldn't do it. It's just because the 4 years he's been in school, that's not the offense he's been asked to run. So that makes more sense to me. Still a weakness, still something that's got to be, but none of these guys are perfect. But at least it makes sense why. Um, this one ex scout said something I thought was interesting. I've never seen a piece of film where his eyes were in the wrong place, but he does have to work on his feet and his hips. Because of the system he runs, that isn't as big a deal. Fixing hips and feet are easy, and I think it would even help his deep ball. Next, needs more um, work on his fakes. So, like on RPOs, run pass option, what am I faking out? If he hands the ball off, he needs to fake that he's rolling more. If he doesn't do it, then he's got to fake the run better. That they said that is if there was an area in his game that he's bad at, it's the fakes. Um, this next scout had a really interesting observation. Didn't have the best wide receivers in college, and you could see that in big games against very talented defensive backs. At the next level, he'll have to trust his wide receivers, but they'll be better, and he will. Again, that's a very good observation. We're talking about Jackson Dart, the Mississippi Ole Miss quarterback. Here's another one. Quick release, but they think his release is too low. So let me give you an example. Now, you're not going to be able to see this. You want your quarterback throwing the ball right over the top of his head like this, okay? And there are times that he throws here. Now, you may say, well, wait a minute. With Cam Ward, you said it was good that he plays like a shortstop. Yeah, but that's in when it requires it. They just think his point of release is too low. You don't want the ball here, you want it here. And especially with the size of the defensive lineman in the NFL, that he's going to have to work on that. Again, none of them is a concern. It's just things that you're going to have to work on. Um, uh, this was a good one. I think his biggest weaknesses are things he doesn't control in Lane's system. Lane makes many of the decisions um, necessary for him to play. So there you go. That's Jackson Dart. Now let's talk about the third one. It's Shedeur Sanders of Colorado. Now everybody thinks he's going in the first round. Most people have him, you know, a late first round, early second round grade that I've spoken to, but they all think he's going much sooner than that. They all think they think that all three of these guys will good chance be gone in the top 15. Okay. And like one guy said to me, this is why teams like me consistently do well picking down where the playoff teams pick. He said, because there's so many bad drafting teams. And he referenced last year. He goes, there's no way that Brock Bowers should have got to 13. There's no world in which Brock Bowers, Joe Alt, and Talise Fuaga should have been picked. They all, there should have been higher. But the issue is there's bad drafting teams. And they think as many as 6 guys may go in the first round. They're not predicting 6, but they think as many as 6 could because desperate teams do stupid stuff. And that's going to allow some teams to do some things to get some really good players. One guy said to me, I could see somebody moving out of the late 20s into the early teens for a team that normally would not move because there's going to be a potential dude that falls or a potential really good player that falls into the teens. I thought that was a really interesting observation. All right, so let's talk about Shedeur. Let's start first with strengths. Many believe he's the best pure passer in this draft, just pure throwing the football passer. He can hit the tight windows. He's on point. He's accurate, and he can deliver the ball to somebody in stride. You don't see receivers waiting for the ball to hit them. It's boom, 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 boom. See, how many times did you watch Trey Tucker? He's out there and he's on a fly route or he's on a 7 route. I know I told you some people call them 9, some call them 7s because it's touchdowns, but it's what you'd normally call a bomb. And if you've seen Trey have to slow down to get the ball from somebody or others, not just Trey. And Shedeur Sanders, there's going to be nothing like that. You're boom, you just keep going. He'll get the ball to you. Next one is I was told is he had tremendous timing. He knows when to release the football. Next, he makes every throw with his arm. There's not one throw on the field. Now, we talked about with Jackson Dart, the deep ball. Some think it's because Bo Nix had this problem last year. A lot of people really were like, what about his deep ball? But he proved he could throw the deep ball this year. But the product of the systems he was in, he didn't have to. And Sean Payton did a tremendous job developing him. So that's with Shedeur, there is no throw anywhere on the field. Anywhere. He makes every throw. Another one is he has played behind a lot of poor offensive lines, and he's tough. He is proven to be tough. All right, let's talk about some of Shedeur's weaknesses. Number one, he has more faith in his athleticism than the tape shows. So let me explain to me that. One scout said he's not Patrick Mahomes. And because he's so athletic, he has too much faith in it. And he got away with it against the level of competition at Colorado. He will get crushed in the NFL. So again, they think he's too okay. He doesn't run north and south. He runs a lot of east and west. And they don't think that that's going to that's a huge concern for NFL teams. And it's just part of who he is going back to high school. That's just how he played. He's always been the most athletic kid. And so, but that's not where he is right now. One guy said to me, plays a lot like he thinks he's Jaden Daniels. Next, holds the ball far too long. Next person said to me, I've not seen a quarterback hold the ball that long since we scouted Derek Carr out of Fresno State. Here's another one. Doesn't operate comfortably in what he is, wants to be Patrick Mahomes or Michael Vick, and he isn't. Not questioning his character, but he has to be comfortable in what he is. Another guy said way too much drifting. What's drifting mean? He backs up, then he just kind of backs up more and more and more and more as the rush comes. Whereas you got to stay in that pocket. Got to stay in that pocket. Because remember, the more you drift, you go 3, 4, 5 yards back. Now, if you're already a 5-step drop, let's say you're 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and your receiver runs a 12-yard route. Okay, now you're 18 yards apart. But if you've drifted 6 more yards, now you're 24. And when you got a big arm, you may say it doesn't matter, but it does matter for speed and getting the ball in there. They're concerned about is staying in the pocket. Another person said does not read and react as fast as he should. Here's another one. Called out his teammates and thus his father and other comments in the media that question his leadership role. There are zero questions with Shador when it comes to character as a human being. That's not the issue. But when you look at the Nebraska game and he asked how many times did that quarterback get hit? Well, throwing your teammates under the bus is not the best, but he also threw his dad under who recruited those kids. He's also made other comments in the media that make us question his leadership ability. How do you give the keys to a several billion-dollar franchise to someone who you're not sure about leadership? I thought that was very telling. Here's another one. Talks way too much on the field and gets engaged way too early. Warren Sapp was able to do it. If you want to be a defensive tackle, that's great. If you want to be the quarterback, let other people do the talking. He's too busy and gets too engaged talking. He needs to stay engaged with the quarterback role on the field. So that's the top 3 quarterbacks in the draft. I hope that you appreciate that. Again, not Hondo opinion. That's what other people think, but I thought you would appreciate that. Now, 2 quarterbacks, and I'm going to go through others. We're going to be doing other podcasts on other quarterbacks where we're going to talk about Quinn Ewers is a guy that we're going to talk about. I'm going to give you his weaknesses and strength. We're going to talk about Dylan Gabriel at Oregon, Will Howard at Notre Dame, and we're going to talk about Jalen Milroe. And I may get into Curtis Rourke at Indiana. I don't know that I will. I'm going to determine that after the combine, after I get some more feedback. But we're certainly not done talking about quarterbacks here. But I asked him, is there a quarterback in this draft or a couple of quarterbacks that you think may be underrated? I got 2. The first one is Graham Martz at Florida. Now, this kid tore an ACL late in the season. And because of that, because of that, he missed some time. But he threw for almost 10,000 yards, so he's got a ton of experience. And he played at Wisconsin and Florida. They think the stats would have been even greater had he played at Florida the entire time. They don't think he'll participate in the combine. But they think the biggest thing from him is going to be medical. But they think this is a kid that could 10 years down the road, reviewing this quarterback class, surprise some people. Just want to keep that name on there. And that's Graham Mertz. If he gets picked, don't be surprised and he will get picked, but don't be surprised if this guy turns out to be a really, really good quarterback. Thought that was fascinating. Here's another one I had never heard of. And when 3 different people mentioned him, it got my attention. And his name is Taylor Elgersma, and he's from Canada. Plays up in the North Country of Canada, and he plays at Laurier. Now, let me tell you about this kid. He's 6'4", 220. He has not played against the best competition, and nobody is doubting that. Because of where he played, and teams have to request guys to be invited to the combine in December. So in a minute, you're going to understand why that's important. So the guy goes to the Senior Bowl, and according to multiple people, they said to me, best player, best quarterback at the Senior Bowl, was stunned. Going against the level of competition at the Senior Bowl took away a lot of our fear about what his level of competition in Canada. Now, here's the thing you got to understand. The Senior Bowl was after everybody put their invites in for the combine. That's why he didn't get invited to this combine. That's why he's not going to be at the combine in a couple weeks in Indy. So, but this is a kid that several teams have their eye on. This is what another guy said to me. If you had to take off the biggest names in this draft, and I was asked to bet a large amount of my net worth on what quarterback will be the surprise in this class, it's clearly the Canuck. Canuck is a name for people from Canada. And so this is a kid, Tyler Elgersma, that I want you to keep an eye on. A lot of NFL people were intrigued at Senior Bowl. One person told me here, absolutely in play for our team. We're not looking for a starting quarterback. We're clearly set. But that kid, as a late rounder, is a no-brainer. Another guy said, that kid is what puts a general manager in the Hall of Fame years later. Why did you pick him and how did you get him so low? You look into a camera on NFL films and say, we knew it all along. So there are 5 guys that I wanted to just share. The top 3 and then 2 that maybe people aren't talking about that, again, sorry about the construction, but 2 that maybe people aren't talking about, but we wanted to make you aware of those and just share that with you. I thought you'd appreciate that. So thanks for joining me. Don't forget, great podcast coming up tomorrow on Saturday. Great podcast coming up on Sunday. And Monday is a very special podcast. A current Raider, a starter, a great player on this team, a key cog for the Raiders. You're not going to want to miss him. He's going to be on the show. Drops at noon on Monday. Thank you, everybody. Listen, I want to just take a quick second before you go. How awesome is Valentine's Day, where we get to honor the women in our life that we love? So I just want to say to my wife, Shannon, I love you. I adore you. I respect you. I appreciate you. And I'm grateful that God put you in my life. The Bible says that he that finds a wife finds a good thing. And I'm glad that God put you in my path and I was able to find you. And thank you for being an amazing mom. Thank you for being a great example of Christ. And thank you for loving Jesus more than you love me and for being my special sweetie. To you and to my daughters and to my mother and my mother-in-law, who I love dearly, and aunts. God bless all of you. I love you so much. And all the ladies in Raider Nation, happy Valentine's Day. God bless all of you. Have a wonderful weekend.